Welcome to another episode of Full Circle with me, Onyx. And today I'm going to talk about communication. And you don't need therapy, you don't need a counselor, you don't need to be medicated, you don't need magic, you don't need intuition, you don't need a psychic. What you need is to fix your communication. So, I my favorite quote, one of my favorite quotes is I don't care how much you know until I know how much you care. And so I think as a culture, as a humanity, we have put the cart before the horse. And so we jump into relationships, we jump into friendships, we automatically give trust to people. And we need to just slow our roll. We need to slow it down a little bit and really start to understand someone's values, um, their needs, which create their boundaries. So, a lot of people prematurely abort good relationships because their first encounter and experiences were negative. Other people, so we're aborting good relationships too early. We're prejudging people. I call it the loaded gun. You watched a whole bunch of entertainment, you read books, fantasies, romances. All this stuff has been groomed, has been curated for you, but your mind thinks it's reality. You romanticize partnership. Uh, you know, you romanticize or you turn into a horror movie uh situations. Oh, this could go bad. Maybe a conversation with a boss or an authority figure, uh and you've watched and read and experienced so much curated experiences. Your mind doesn't know the difference. You probably spend more time in front of a screen than with an actual person. And so it's like a cold slap in the face. It's like someone just poured cold water on you, and then you think something is going wrong. You're wondering why it's not working out. Well, your life isn't scripted, it's actually real. Do you want to escape into music and entertainment and some romanticized beautiful dream or a beautiful nightmare? Do you want to live in self pity and emotions? Do you want to go to a counselor where you guys can hash out history and get nowhere? Do you want to get on medication to disrupt the natural biology in your system and really mess you up? The choices are endless. I'm telling you, there is a simple, clean, basic way to kind of fix this like self perpetuating craziness. And it's like you planted seeds, but you expected a whole garden the next day. You're rushing it. And in the excitement, in the high of getting some of your needs met, you didn't look at all the red flags, the orange flags. You didn't look at those minor disturbances that were ruffling your feathers. And instead, you chose to compromise yourself. You chose to buy into a belief that maybe if I just stay silent, or maybe if I just be patient, or maybe if I'm just more nurturing, maybe if I'm just more giving, the situation will change. Either way, it could have been the opposite. You could have been, maybe if I'm really assertive with my boundaries, maybe if I say no, Maybe if I have my lists of non-negotiables, then I can handle a real person and a real conversation and real vulnerability. So both extremes, I've witnessed both, and they end up in the same place. You single, or you not able to create connection. So communication is vital for connection. Without connection, you don't have trust. So when you're at the point you don't trust your partner, when you're at the point you need to go get a psychic to figure stuff out, it's because you've already broken trust. You've already broken safety. You have broken permission. Of course, we did all of this not thinking what our actions were doing were going to land us in this place. We really couldn't foresee it. But then, if we kind of do some self reflection, there were times when you could have let your partner, let your friend, let your coworker, let your boss know what's not okay, what feels compromising to you, what feels unethical, immoral, dirty, wrong, self-sacrificing. So how hot does the water have to get before you jump out, before it doesn't feel good anymore? You know, the frog in the hot water effect. You put the frog in the water, then you slowly turn it up. By the time it realizes it's too hot, it can't get out, and you got a cooked frog. And you didn't have to put a lid on it or anything, you know? So the slow effect of you not creating trust, you allowing trust to break, you breaking communication lines, you know, later on down the road, there's no more intimacy in your relationship, there's no more connection, and then you buy into the curated information for you. It's time to leave them, glow up, you know, they're a low, look, whatever the excuse is. I love when someone tells me, you know, that's just an excuse. I'm like, what is an excuse? It's a reason. Here's the difference. The reason takes you off the hook, helps you not be accountable for, helps you bypass the responsibility of taking ownership for what you have created. So it might allow you to play the victim. It might allow you to play the, you know, first you're the victim and then you're going to advocate for your rights and you're going to be a bully. Okay, so you start to objectify your partner. So a lot of our experience is based on memory. Our memory is kind of not true. And it's also based on how we respond to life is based upon beliefs that probably aren't true anymore. So we kind of create an image of our partner or person that we're dealing with, and our mind keeps filling in these blanks, and all your mind can do is give you old information. The part of the mind I'm talking about is like what you consider your thinking mind. You know, it creates a construct within itself. And so if you're like, say you're driving down the road and you're thinking about a heated argument you had with someone, that person isn't immediately in front of you. So what you have already done is created an image, a construct of this person. And your mind, so you're interacting with an idea of that person. It's completely self-generated inside of you. The actual person is where you left them when you drove off in a mad hurry or an emotional outburst, okay? And when you are thinking about that partner all night long, it's actually not an alternate version in another timeline. No, it is something you constructed within yourself. So a lot of our interactions with people is this manufactured construction that you built in your own head. You don't really spend so much time with the actual person. So the relationship is more a projection, more what you think it is than you actually meeting the person. Then when you actually are interacting with a person, you're releasing the image, the construct, this narrative onto this person. You don't even know them. They're literally a stranger to you once again. And so, in a weird way, you find yourself, it doesn't matter how you got there, but we find ourselves maybe afraid of our partner. We don't know how they're going to react. And when it's gone this extreme, when you're afraid to tell your truth, when you're afraid they're going to retaliate, bite back, shame you, put you down, bully you, minimize you, gaslight you, so-called narcissistic abuse on you, I have to then say, if you haven't figured it out, you did that to yourself. You were going too fast. You ignored red flags. You ignored conflict. And so the conflict escalates in bad behavior in the other person. The conflict, these bigger red flags, flashing red lights, look like fear, look like danger, look like trauma. You're not listening. You're not paying attention to all the language being communicated to you. That trust has been broken and not reestablished yet. That good faith has been broken and has not been reestablished. So instead, you bypass the work and maybe have sex. You bypass the work and stay pleasing, stay people pleasing. You bite your tongue, you hold back your anger, you hold back saying what you want to say in hopes that it will correct itself, that they will see the light. You put all that responsibility on them. You shifted the responsibility off of you, and it escalates. They start talking derogatory to you. They don't respect you anymore. And so then you're in a toxic relationship, dysfunctional, not going anywhere. It's just not working. It's bad vibes. And we have to then go, how did I lose trust? When did I stop trusting them? When did I build up this wall? When did I build this mask, layer after layer of paint, until it's become a 5-inch wall? When did I decide it was easier to put on a smile instead of expressing my truth? When was it even with this person? Was that with my father? Was it with my cousin that I started to put on a fake smile and a people-pleasing attitude? Was it who cares? So this is where going down history road eventually doesn't help you. You might do a little self-reflecting and go, oh yeah, my mom was always fake with my dad, and then behind his back, she vented on me, and then she kept going. And so, yeah, I didn't really have healthy parents like everyone on the planet. Humans aren't healthy right now. So the curated entertainment in a novel, like a sex romance novel, or a young, whimsical, magical escape movie or show. Yeah, life isn't Disneyland. That's created because we're bypassing the work. And the work doesn't have to be intense, dirty, and ugly. It can just be, hey, you know what? I notice I'm not speaking my truth anymore. So I'm not laughing as loud as I would laugh. I'm not using the actual words I would use to the level of intensity that I'm feeling it. And the only reason why I'm feeling so strongly is because it's been a long time of slowly dimming my light, slowly becoming more inauthentic. Guess what? The other person doesn't trust you anymore. You're not safe. You're like, are you kidding me? I'm so nice. I'm so pleasing. I'm so accommodating. I'm so tolerant. I'm so patient. I've suggested multiple times on how they could fix it. I'm like, yeah, that's toxic. Really toxic. Because you shouldn't be playing that game. You should be addressing situations immediately when they start. Hey, I notice you're kind of talking to me as a friend when actually I'm your partner. Our language should be different, honey. Hey, I noticed you started calling me by my last name instead of my first name. I would prefer it and would like to be called by my first name. It's a sign of respect. Hey, I notice when you try to meet me at your level, you're kind of degrading me. I notice I'm not gonna stay in the same room with you if you keep talking to me like that. So, throughout your day, in your waking real world experience, you have multiple opportunities to educate people on how you would like to be treated. One really effective way to educate people is to treat others exactly the way you would like to be treated, not reactive, weaponized treated. So if you would like to be called by your first name, you call others by their first name. If you would like to be seen as graceful and dignified, treat others in a graceful, dignified way. Don't put the responsibility on them first and last. So we have to call ourselves out on our personal agendas. If you're feeling angry, you want to feel angry. If you're feeling resentful, you want to. Now that's where the self-reflection is a little bit useful. You go, why do I want to feel resentful towards my husband, for my partner? Oh, because then I don't have to look at myself and go, wow, I just created a toxic partner so I could have this experience to wake myself up and stop doing this pattern. I watched my mom and her boyfriend go through this. Okay, so I picked up the pattern. I'm not blaming them, but do I really want to live it out? Or do I want to just see it now and change it? Okay, I'm going to start owning my voice. So, empowering myself and empowering my partner. So, we kind of expect, it's really strange, but humans, especially modern humans, expect the other person to kind of already know what you need and what you expect. So when they behave differently, which is natural because they're actually a different person, we feel offended, we feel misunderstood, we feel upset, we feel negative, we feel judgmental towards them. Uh, and it's all on this assumption that they should somehow read your mind. That that is a hard, long way to go about it. Okay, so I've like tried this mind reading thing. I've tried to just sit in my room and send out signals. Call me, text me, I love you. As an experiment, I did it for fun. Sometimes it works, but I have to put in like 10 times the amount of energy is then being direct. So we live in the 3D world. We use language and our voices to communicate to others. We use, texting, however it is. There's multiple ways to communicate to someone, to reach out to them. Now, we need to start being clear. So my friend gave me a really, she was a great client. She was a great friend. And she was telling me how scared she was to talk to her husband. And the only reason why you're afraid is because you don't know him anymore. Because you've been living in a delusion. Because you haven't been honest with yourself, which created all of this. So the delusion, the illusion, the dream, the fantasy, it can be twisted into a nightmare where you feel fear. It can be twisted back again to an extreme where you feel soulmates and in love and destined. Hey, let's come back to reality for a minute. So instead of really worrying so hard on how you construct the words and whether you're being heard or not, let's just start focusing on clarity. Hey, honey, just to clarify, were you actually intending to put me down? Let them respond. Let them think about it. So let me get this straight so I understand you clearly. When I told you my actual needs, you dismissed them. Was that correct? Give them an opportunity in that moment to check themselves, to reflect. And then they might go, oh my gosh, I didn't realize that. Thank you for pointing that out. And instead of internalizing it and missing it and throwing on another sweet layer, hey, would you like another helping of cake? Or, pouty face. I'm sad. Vague. Be more direct. So inquire. Don't be afraid to inquire. So conversations, yes, they have questions and answers. So before you get into, so most people, because we already expect our garden to grow. The tree is supposed to be full grown and it has no roots. And, because we have already thrown ourselves so far deep into the relationships without doing the groundwork, we've moved forward into levels. You're reading deeper into chapters in the novel than you should be. You got to lay the character foundation. You got to lay it. So there's that. Let's go back and build from the beginning. If you're afraid to share these negative feelings and these harder aspects that have built up over time, which I told you to throw away, but you know you're going to do it anyways, let's first start off. Okay, if you're afraid of their reaction, maybe they are narcissistic, okay? Maybe that's a real tendency. Maybe they are abusive. That's a real tendency. Maybe they are temperamental. Why don't you start in the safe zone? If you're so afraid of speaking your truth, there has to be somewhere, probably in the realm of things that please you, probably in the realms of things that you find delightful, entertaining, enjoyable, inspiring, creative, insightful. Go there. Instead of all about you and your stuff, go there. It still helps them start to build a new character of you in their head. So you could be like, hey, honey, you know what? I just read this really cool article, and this statement really jumped out at me, And they might dismiss it and whatever, but they heard it. They're like, so she's into plants. Weird. She never told me that. Okay, whatever. and then another few days go by, whatever. Oh my goodness, honey, look over there at that mountain range. I really appreciate that. To me, that rep is a symbol of strength and stability and balance. Okay, she's a little different. Let me change the channel on the phone or whatever it is. Let's change the music. What's going on is they're starting to build a new relationship with you. In a weird way, you could call it the new you, but it's actually the most authentic version of you that you're now starting to share. So you start sharing your values and your truths, these positive little things. I call it the long spoon. Long spoon, dish it out. The safety zone that because your goal is to build trust. You got to build a friendship. You got to build a rapport. You have to become known again because you knew you all this time. You and your bag of feelings and your bag of history. And you've been in a relationship with the idea of a person in your head, not the actual person in front of you. This happens in all kinds of relationships. And so then we're surprised, we're caught off guard when we feel out of control, we feel dysregulated, we question ourselves because you're actually believing and interacting with this false character of them than the actual character of them. How else could you have been surprised? How else could you be afraid? Of course you're afraid of a stranger. Of course. You don't know them well enough. You don't know their history. They don't know your history. So if someone actually knew your history, and you actually knew theirs, you're more than likely to be at least friends. At the level of friends, you're more than likely to be heard and not shamed and abused for opening your mouth. So if you can't even be friends and you can't even be completely abused, disregarded for sharing, you're in such a toxic space, you have to go. That's all on you for choosing to stay. But that would be the most self-abusive thing you could do. No therapy would get you out of that because you're choosing it. Okay? You're just flat out choosing it. I choose to put myself in harm's way. There's no one to blame. You're just doing it. Okay? So I didn't realize we got so far into this video. But let's just continue because it doesn't have to be such a long, hard subject. But you have to eventually realize I am basically starting over at ground zero. If I feel afraid of my partner, if I feel unsafe in this environment, I have estranged myself as well as my partner. So I need to rebuild that. So you need to spend time together. Build intimacy. Intimacy isn't going to happen until they care about you. So you can't have these relationship resolving conversations with the transformation that you would like until you build from scratch those roots that you never took the time to build, is what I'm saying. And during this rebuilding of roots, you might find, 30 years has gone by, 10 years, 5 days, a week. I'm a different person, so I don't want to build these roots. I'm actually leaving, but I'm leaving not blaming you and giving myself an alibi. I'm going to leave more honest. I'm going to leave more authentic. And I'm going to have the decency to inform you that during these past days, months, weeks, building a new relationship with you, building trust, building safety, creating safe space, having permission, I realized actually, I'm done. Actually, this is a new version of me. Because before I wasn't advocating for myself. And now that I realize I jumped in way too early, me going slow, I realize you're actually the not the friend I want. You're not the partner I want. So you can leave under those type of terms because you're leaving consciously healthy. You're leaving communicating with clarity. You're advocating health, not exactly just for you, but you know the relationship itself doesn't work. Why would you can't really build a relationship unless you have something in common. Common interest, common goals. It can't just be compatible sexuality and call it your soulmate. It doesn't work in the long term because there's 24 hours in a day, and how many days in a week are there, and how many weeks in a year, and how many years you're going to live. That's a lot of time you're probably not engaging on just sexual energy, just being attracted. You have to work together, you have to live together if you're going to be compatible. So friendships are based on common interests. Usually the more same interest you are, same values. So same interests and same values. The stronger those are, the stronger the friendship, because that creates safety. That also creates permission because it's creating understanding. You can always go back to common interests and goals and values when other areas are falling apart. You can laugh it off easier, which really isn't just laughing it off. It's taking a breath and going, wow, you, my friend, really surprised me. You totally offended me. Let's go back to our common interests, lifting weights or doing martial arts or whatever it is, drinking tea together, window shopping, to give me time to process that, where I can then gauge where we're at, and then have a conversation with you while we're shopping or while we're lifting weights. And over time, rebuild that broken trust. But because we have this activity, common interest, it gives us a valid reason to spend time together and decide if we're going to maintain this or work it out. And it looks like we can, because when we reviewed our values, you started to feel guilty about it. When I asked for clarity, did you mean to say it like that and offend my race and my heritage? No. Or you did in that moment and you realized you were such a fool.